In this video I show you the painting process of my latest watercolor and mixed media artwork, which reminds me of a dark elven princess or something like that. And I will also tell you what is so special about this piece. First, for the reference of this portrait, I used an AI-generated artwork again. I find working with AI quite handy sometimes. I don't use AI for every artwork. For example, to make the paintings for my Bad Apple auctions at the end of each month, I find AI too inaccurate to realize my ideas. I prefer to use my own photos or stock photos of professional models for that. Still, I find AI really handy for small studies where I don't want to spend hours creating a reference. For example, my last painting, with a girl on a boat, is based on an AI image as well, and it features such interesting subjects that I had never painted before, and it was a lot of fun to me to paint. Now, the other special thing of this painting is the limited colors. The reference consists mainly of very muted petrol tones and very soft transitions. I generally find it very difficult to get dark tones with watercolors. Often they dry up so faded that they no longer have anything to do with the original color. That's why I started directly with the background, because I wanted to see if I could get this dark with my colors at all. To achieve that, I put several layers on top of each other using a lot of Payne's Gray, which is this dark petrol tone. Even though it's called gray, the color is more of a green-bluish. The pigmentation is very intense, so I almost always use it for the dark areas in my paintings. Fortunately, it worked out, and when I was reasonably happy with the background, I moved on to the portrait. What's great about the AI reference is that the shadows in the face fall very nicely like in old paintings from the academic or the salon art epoch. But the style of the image is more reminiscent of a fantasy game or manga art even. This is then also the second peculiarity of this picture. The face looks somehow realistic, but on the other hand not. This is partly due to the unusual facial features, which can hardly be found in reality. If I wanted to paint a painting like this without AI, I would probably have to use a 3D model as a reference because the proportions are so unusual. The models I photographed myself all have very different facial features, which of course I think are super beautiful, but you can see that they are real. With this reference, you can clearly see that it isn't based in reality. I have not yet studied how the academic painters have managed to make their models look so surreal, and I'm interested to learn that, because I think this style is very beautiful. But I have no idea how you can recreate it nowadays without working for months on a painting. In short, this reference is an unusual mixture that I think looks very unique and special, and I really wanted to turn it into a traditional work of art. By the way, if you want to watch the video slowed down in its original length, where you can follow every brushstroke and repaint this artwork together with me, join me on Patreon. You can download my reference and the sketch with which you can then repaint the image itself or create your own version. I explain my techniques on Patreon much more detailed than here on YouTube, and you can follow each step of the painting process. I created over 200 painting videos and step-by-step tutorials so far, with which you can learn mixed media painting. Just follow the link in the video description to join me on Patreon. Oh, and thanks to all the tips I got from you, I was finally able to use my masking fluid properly. For this Elven portrait, I applied it right at the beginning on all the highlights using silicone sculpting tools. In one of Hamrip's videos, I saw that she even uses a masking fluid pen, which I would love to try because it seems that you can work much more precisely with it than with silicone tools. Yet, so far it worked for me, but I definitely want to try out the masking pen as well. In the beginning, it doesn't even matter if the portrait looks a bit ugly. As you can see, I'm rather sloppy, and my first watercolor layers on the face don't look that great. But that doesn't matter since I draw over everything with color pencils anyway. For the eyes, unfortunately, I couldn't rely on my reference because AI faces often have very messed up and very creepy eyes, so I relied on my experience here. When I paint skin tones, I always try to incorporate many more shades than actually appear in the reference. This always looks better and more interesting as a painted image. So I use bright ochres, turquoises and blues to make the portrait even more vibrant. Painting the dress was an absolute horror though. I definitely should have spent a bit more time in Photoshop, replacing the AI dress with a real one. When I started to paint all the folds, I realized that they looked super strange and weird, and I had to think up the shape somehow so that it made any sense at all in the end. Especially the piece of fabric on the arm looks so strange. Also the amulet. I noticed later it had the wrong perspective and I would have had to rotate that in Photoshop to make it look right. However, I just did my best to save the picture and I think it isn't too noticeable in the end. Except for me, of course, but I'm sure you know that. As an artist, you are always most critical with yourself. Well, this is now the final picture and I hope you liked it and I hope you liked the unusual composition. I hope you enjoyed the video and let me know if some of you can recommend a good masking fluid pen. Have fun painting and I see you in the next one. Bye bye!